Yield myself such time as I may consume. The horrible burden the gentleman's talking about is a notice of intent which says where and how something was applied, virtually cost-free. You can use a standardized form. But it's just good to know where we're putting the pesticides and what pesticides are being used in case there are problems like the massive fish kill in Oregon, which we were able to trace back to one misapplication by one private company, not by the local county or any other public entity. With that, I'd yield 3 minutes to the gentlelady from California, Ms. Napolitano.
The gentlelady from California is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do rise in strong opposition to H.R. 897, the Zika Vector Control Act. The Clean Water Act in no way hinders, delays, or prevents the use of approved pesticides for pest control operations. In fact, the Clean Water Act provides a specific emergency provision to prevent outbreaks of the disease such as Zika. Under the terms of the permit, pesticide applicators are automatically covered under the permit, and spraying may be performed immediately for any declared pest emergency situations. In most instances, sprayers are only required to notify EPA of the spraying operations 30 days after the beginning of the spraying operation. As I've noted before in similar bills, I have remained concerned that this bill would mean that no Clean Water Act protections would be required for pesticides application to water bodies that are already impaired by pesticides. Most pesticide applications in the U.S. are done in accordance with the federal insecticide, fungicide, and rodenticide, FIFRA, which requires proper labeling of pesticide products regarding usage. However, FIFRA labeling is no substitute for ensuring that we understand the volumes of pesticides that we seem to apply to our rivers, our lakes, our streams, and on an annual basis. According to a 2006 USGS report on pesticides, commonly used pesticides frequently are present in streams, groundwater, at levels that exceed human health benchmarks and occur in many streams at level that may affect the aquatic life or fish-eating wildlife. In that data, the states provide the EPA more than 1,600 miles of rivers and streams, 1,380 of basins and estuaries, 370,000 acres of lakes in the United States currently impaired or threatened by pesticides. EPA suggests that these estimates may be low because many of these states do not test for or monitor all the different pesticides that are currently being used. I'm very concerned on the effect these pesticides have on the health of the rivers, on our streams, especially the drinking water supplies of all our citizens, especially the most vulnerable, which are the young, the elderly, the poor, and disenfranchised who have no other protection. I would also add that if our true concern here is protecting the health of pregnant women in particular, we should focus on preventing pesticide application directly or indirectly to drinking water sources. Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to place into the record a federal report on how pesticides in California are leading cause of impairments to the water quality.
Without objection.
Currently in California, there are over 4,500 miles of rivers and streams, 235,000 acres of lakes and reservoirs, 829 square miles of bays and estuaries in my state that are impaired by pesticides. This is a significant concern in my home state where every drop of water needs to be conserved, reused, and cherished. We hear that pesticide is an application.
I yield the gentlelady 1 additional minute.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
We hear that pesticide application is already regulated under FIFRA and that the Clean Water Review is not needed. I understand the concerns about the application of effort and need to minimize the impacts the regulations have on small business or business at large. However, I am still very concerned that these pesticides are having a very significant impact on water quality, and we are creating this exemption for water quality protection requirement without considering the impacts to the waters that are already impaired with pesticides as they are in California. This in turn costs ratepayers, taxpayers, water users hundreds of millions to filter those pollutants out of the water before it is potable. This is something I deal with on an ongoing basis, the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Water Resources and Environment. We currently have aquifers that are contaminated by the continued use of pesticides and fertilizers. Millions of dollars have been spent on 15-year-long cleanup efforts of Superfund site in my area that has pesticide as one of its contaminants. We cannot, should not, take away one of the tools available to monitor the adverse impacts of pesticides on rivers, streams, and reservoirs. Over the past 5 years, this tool has been reasonable.
Time has expired.
I oppose this bill.
The gentleman from Ohio is recognized.
I yield